Hey guys, so we are on playwriting, and that's where we're going today. So, first up, if you haven't done it yet, go on to Schoology, answer to the discussion questions on there about a movie that you have seen, okay, one that you know. Now, on here, we have our objective, which is I can learn to create original characters and plot, format their story in a play. And so that's what we're working on, okay? We're going to come up with some original characters, an original plot, and you're going to put all of that into a play. But we're going to talk about it first. So let's look at that warm-up question. What is a movie that you know? So this is one that you should be able to answer these 5 questions for that you shouldn't have to research. So in your movie, who was the main character? Typically, this is the character that we focus on or who has the most lines. Then we look at what did they want to do during the movie? What was their main goal or their objective that they were trying to accomplish? What stopped them from doing that thing? Was it a person? Was it a situation? What is it that got in their way from doing the thing that they wanted to do? What did they do to try and get what they wanted? So how did they try to overcome or get around, defeat that thing? What happened in the end? Did they get what they wanted? Okay. So you could choose a Marvel movie. Those are popular. I think a lot of people have seen those. Maybe like romantic comedies. Maybe like sort of older movies. You can do that, and you're just going to answer these questions on there. Okay, and then you're going to type your answers in the discussion. So let's talk about the structural elements of a work. Now I have some notes on my phone for us as we go today. Okay, so these are the main things that we look at in any work, in a movie, in a play. These are the things that we want to make sure are being accomplished well. Sorry, I just noticed my computer's not charging. It's plugged in. All right. It's on. Not the best thing. All right. So, it's back. All right. So these are the structural elements in a work. Okay. So the first are the characters. Okay. Who are they? Who is your antagonist? Who is your protagonist? Your protagonist is the guy typically that we root for, girl. Your antagonist is the one who's getting in the way of your protagonist, of the story happening. Okay, so if you had a character and you said, hey, my protagonist, let's say that we were doing a play, a movie about school. The protagonist, the hero, is going to be a student. The antagonist would then be it could be a bully, it could be a teacher, an administrator, it could be the hall monitors, right? So the person who is against, for whatever reason, our protagonist is our antagonist, okay? Then we have the objective. Every good story is going to have good characters too. And let's, on characters, think about not being stereotypical. What makes a character a real person? The stereotype are the jokes that we make, the things that we assume to be true about people based on the way they look or where they come from. In a good work, your character is more than a stereotype. There may be stereotypical things that exist within their world, but the stereotype is not all that they are. And so when you're writing a character, you want to go beyond what the stereotype of the character is. Now, these characters have objectives, right? They have things that they're trying to accomplish. Another word for an objective is a goal. It's a need, it's a want, it's something that the character must do or get to do. So if you were watching, let's go back to Iron Man, okay? Iron Man, you've got the rich playboy person of Tony Stark who gets captured, and then at the beginning of the movie he sort of wants this fame and this money, right? But then he wants to get free, then he wants to defeat these captors that got him, then he wants to protect more and more people. And so we see that this idea of objective, of what are the needs, that's what drives the character. It's what they want to do. And anytime we have an objective, then we have obstacles because we have things that get in the way of that objective. These are the things that come against the character that the character either falls to or rises above. It gives the character an opportunity to learn. It gives them an opportunity to adapt. It gives them an opportunity to be a real person and decide, how am I going to overcome, or am I going to overcome? And then that takes our story in a different way. I think sometimes when we're writing good stories and good plays, it's important to think about, what is this idea of obstacle? Um, so many times when you write a story, you're like, okay, this is exactly how it has to be. I think a better way to write a story is you figure out who your characters are and you figure out what they want, and then you let the obstacles help define who the characters are going to become. Instead of just deciding, hey, they have to be a hero and they have to always look like a hero. Well, real life, a lot of times our heroes are flawed, right? We have a lot of issues. And so sometimes we don't rise above. Sometimes we don't make those good choices. And that's what our obstacles can sort of teach us about our characters. And so if you would let the reality of your world sort of shape who your character becomes, you're going to have a more three-dimensional character. They're going to have a better story. Okay, and so that's what our obstacles can help us with. So when we look at obstacles in our plays, we're saying what or who gets in the way of our character achieving their objective. Okay, if you were about a student and a student wants lunch at school, an obstacle would be COVID-19 requires no outside food to come here, right? Another obstacle is they don't have money for lunch. So what are they going to do? How are they going to get around this? Okay, are they going to be able to get the pizza? And so the answer to an obstacle is a tactic. What are they going to do to defeat the obstacle? What does the character do to get around the obstacle or defeat it or get rid of it? Okay. And so tactics are sort of show the moral compass of your character. Okay. Are they a good guy that has good tactics and are always going to be on the up and up? Are they a good guy, but that will use questionable tactics to still get what they want? Are they a person that thinks about using questionable tactics, but they decide or have a change of heart that goes, you know what, I'd rather be a good person than a person with questionable morals? Tactics, again, help define who the character is. And you don't have to make your play or make your characters live in a fairy tale. They can live in a real world. And so we can have a gray area that no one is 100% good, no one is 100% bad. And that's what these things show us. There was a lot with Thanos on Avengers. There's a question of, is Thanos wrong? Right? If there's a limited amount of resources and you could make 50% of the world disappear, right? Not through just through the snap of your fingers. They're not even killed. They just cease to exist, right? They just sort of disappear. Is that a wrong thing? Are his motives wrong? And it's like, well, no, his motives, his objective may not be wrong, but his tactics are highly questionable for why he would do those things. Probably should have said spoiler if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame. Also, if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, I don't know. Either you don't care or I don't know. So we look at those tactics. Those tactics help shape who the character is and give more definition. Well, then we have the resolution. How does the story end? Does the character get what he or she wants? If they do, it's a happy. If they don't, it's sad. But it could be a mixture. If they do, maybe they're still sad. Maybe that didn't satisfy. And this idea it carries through a whole story, but it also can carry through parts of a story, right? Resolutions happen in a good play throughout the play. And that's what, again, we go back, okay, well, this was the resolution, so now I have a new objective. This was the resolution to this part, so now I have a new objective. Resolutions define the next objective and cause us to want something more or less and go after the same thing with more tenacity or go after something different that we weren't thinking about going before. So the other thing, after we look at this, we have the idea of stakes. So stakes are the motivating factor for why someone wants something. If there are no stakes, we don't care. If your characters don't really care about what they're going after and it's not communicated what they care about and why they care about and why it's important, then why are we watching in the first place? And so this idea of stakes are the things that sort of help us get onto the edge of our seat, to help us care and root for the character. What are the stakes? What happens if they don't succeed? And it needs to be something that for one reason or another, it could be they're going to personally feel guilty. They're going to be embarrassed. It can be they're going to lose their home. It can be that this person's never going to talk to this person anymore. They could lose their job. Like, what are these stakes? What are they playing for? And that's what's going to help your audience buy into it. Now, all of these things help to create what we call conflict. There is no good story if there isn't conflict. Now, conflict isn't just a fist fight on stage. It's not just fighting physically. It can be fighting with theory, fighting with ideas. It could be two people that don't sort of get along. But what is the conflict that's happening? And when we write a character with one objective and another character with a different objective, then we're going to have conflict between these two because they want two different things. Or if both characters want the same thing, now we have conflict between the two. And so then we need to see the stakes of each character, and that's going to help your audience have buy-in. Okay. And also, the conflict is driven by the objective and the obstacle and the tactics, right? And when you have multiple characters in your work, all having different objectives, different obstacles, and sometimes their obstacles are each other, so what are the tactics that they're going to use on each other? These are the things that make drama good, and drama being the literary art form of theater, of plays, okay? And this is what we're looking for. And you can start with basic objectives. You can start with basic obstacles. It doesn't have to be the best idea ever, but we start and we use this idea as we are going to prepare to write an original work. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do today, okay? So if you're in class, we're doing this as group writing. If you're online, you're just going to work on it by yourself. So your first question, well, what am I going to write about? How do I know what? Because that's where do I start? That's what everyone, when you get a writing assignment, well, where do I start? Okay. So what we're going to do is on Schoology, I have listed a theme generator. So you're going to go to this website and you're going to press generate a theme. Okay. And you don't have to choose the first one. I would say maybe up to 5 times can you do different theme generators, but you need to choose one of the first 5. And you're going to, on a document, you're going to write, and I have an example on Schoology, and you're going to put, hey, here is our group members' names, or here's my name. And the next, you're going to write out what the theme is. And that theme is now going to be a jumping off point for what your play is going to be. Okay. So now I have a theme. I have somewhere that tells me that my play is about this theme. Now, when I was in college, we did a 10-minute play fest. And on this 10-minute play fest, we got a theme. And so my theme was A Stranger in a Strange Land. Okay, now that did I just go, okay, my location is strange land and my man is stranger? No, I let the theme influence what I was going to write about. And so I wrote about a play about a guy that liked to hook up with girls on their first night out because he would ask them to marry him. And so that was my play. It's a damaged guy who would ask girls out just to try to get with them by doing a fake engagement, and then he disappears the next day. And this day, so he's a stranger, right? They don't know each other. The strange land was this girl actually is crazy. And actually, like, at this restaurant that they happen to be at, like, her parents show up. Like, the strange land is that it's not working. His whole plan crumbles before the audience. And it was a comedy. Well, we got fine, and the guy who was running the contest said, hey, you can't write comedies. I was like, oh, okay. It was a 24-hour play thing. So I had spent like an hour and a half writing this play. And so I threw it out. And so then I was like, okay, Stranger in a Strange Land. So then my second idea was a girl who had decided to take her own life, and she ends up in an afterlife situation. And in this afterlife, there are people there who are in a waiting room, and there's a person who's running the waiting room, and the people who are sitting around cannot get up out of their chairs. They're stuck because they've just been decided just to wait for so long. And so they're sort of waiting in these different, and we would assign attitudes to each person as we're waiting. But this girl didn't feel like she deserved here, and she doesn't want to sit down in this waiting room and just wait and just wait. And it goes to show the doctor never is going to come. These people are in sort of like a purgatory type place where they're just waiting, except the doctor does show up. And when the doctor shows up, and throughout we're finding this girl's story, right? We're finding out sort of what happened to sort of get her here. But the doctor does show up, but no one who's sitting down can see the doctor. And the person who is the receptionist hates the doctor, but the girl can see the doctor, and the doctor takes the girl away from this place. And then right before the play ends, we found out that she was from an abusive situation, abusive home, abusive father. Right after she leaves, there's like a flash of light, and then a new person has entered the waiting room, and it was her father, her abusive father, ends up in this same place, and he goes and he takes a seat. End of play. Stranger, the girl, Strangeland, this place, she didn't feel like she belonged there, and she's rescued from it. The theme led to what we were actually talking like about. It didn't drive it, but it was a jumping off point. Okay, so your theme doesn't have to be exact with whatever you just use it as your jumping off point. Okay, how many characters? Well, I would say how many characters are in your group if you're doing a group. If you're online, no more than 3 characters, maybe 4. No more than 4 characters if you're online. Okay, so come up with who the characters are in this story that you're creating. Okay, if you're in a group, you need 1 character per person. Okay. How many settings? Well, you're going to have 3 settings, okay? So your setting can't just be a house, all right? You can say the living room, the kitchen, the front door. Those are the 3 settings if you're just in a house the whole time. But you're going to have 3 settings that this story that you have a theme is going to take place with these 3 characters, okay? So then it's, well, what is the conflict? Well, conflict is we have to decide what people want or what they're trying to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to create 10 scenarios, okay? You're going to use this idea, and it's on your sheet, but you're going to say character 1 is in environment 1 or setting 1 or place 1, wanting to, and then what do they want to do in that place? And then you go, character 2 is in setting 1, wanting to, character 3 is in setting 1, wanting to, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do it for the second setting and the third setting, and I'm going to create at least 10 different actions or 10 different objectives that they're trying to accomplish within this story. So after I do all of that, I'm going to look at what I have. So I have characters, I have different places, and I have things that they want. Now I'm going to create an outline. I'm now going to sort of put it all together, and I'm going to create an outline of what my story is. Now on the thing, I have an outline of like your beginning, scene 1, scene 2, middle, scene 3, end, scene 4, and scene 5. And in those things, like scene 1 is initial incident. Now in scene 1, you're going to want to, and this is just writing paragraphs. You're not writing the play yet, but you're working on, okay, scene 1. What I want, first off, is I want these people to have an initial incident. What's happening that's causing people to want something? Also, scene 1 is any background knowledge. I have to figure out a way to tell the audience everything they need to know to be caught up with what's happening in this play. Okay, so scene 1, I introduce my characters, I introduce where we are, I introduce what's going on, and I introduce what is the objective, what are the things, where's the conflict. I start seeing it, okay? And something has to happen. What happens in scene 1 that's leading to the climax, that's leading to whatever that big point is in the play, and that we're going to resolve by the end of the play. Scene 2. I now am in a different scene, and I have a rise in action. Now, scene 2 can take place in the same location as scene 1. It can be in a different room. It can be in a different location. But now, whatever that initial incident was, whatever the initial conflict, we're rising. Okay? So it's a disagreement. We're having a bigger argument about it. We're revisiting it. We're clarifying what our positions are. And we're clearly showing what side we're on about things. Scene 3, the climax. This is the middle of your play. Okay? Sometimes in plays, climax happens closer to the end. In our play, it's 10 minutes, okay? We're going to try to hit this climax around the 5-6 minute mark, okay? What happens in the climax, okay? What happens when these different obstacles and objectives, when we're reaching that peak of the argument? Is it settled? Do people blow up? Do they have a huge disagreement? What are the stakes that got us there, okay? And scene 4, we're going to have a falling action. What happens after the climax? Where are we now? How many hours have passed? How many days have passed? Are we in just the next moment? Is it the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year? And then scene 5 is our resolution. What happens? How do we resolve it? Who gets what they want? Who doesn't get what they want? How have the characters changed from scene 1, where they started, to scene 5? Did they stay the same? And if they did stay the same, you have to establish why they learned nothing from what they just walked through. Now, we're going to try to do drama, like dramatic literature, not comedy in this. So we want to try to go drama. We don't have to go too, like, it doesn't have to be anything too deep. But we want to try to do that. We want to stay around 10 minutes long with what we're doing. So today we're just sort of doing the overview. We're going to start working on the outline. We're going to see where we get. Okay. We may finish the outline later this week, and we're going to start writing and talk about, well, how do we write an actual, how do we take this and put it in play format without getting too wordy, without getting too, putting too much in. Okay. So this is where we're at today. We're going to work on this playwriting. This is the unit that we're in. I'm really excited about this. I really want us to, this is why I love theater. I love theater because theater can create in the moment. We can create stories that we care about. We can give voice to things that we think deserve voice. We can shed light on issues that are important. And I really want us to play this because we may stay in this idea of writing, directing, acting out these original things and try to maybe film some and just do this the rest of the year, because I think this is where my love for theater really comes from. So just know what you're writing. I don't know if I said this. We will be performing, okay? I don't know if you'll be performing. I don't know if we'll get other actors. We'll perform each other's, but we are going to perform these and work on these the rest of the year. A note right now on theme, just write what's in you. If people in your group feel like it's inappropriate, then listen and change, okay? Sometimes you can write about one thing and you're really trying to write about something else. If you've ever seen Zombies, the Disney movie, they're writing about zombies, but it's not about zombies, right? It's about tolerance. And my daughter told me this. My 6-year-old daughter said, well, it's a movie about tolerance. It's not about zombies and cheerleaders. It's about tolerance. And so they wanted to write a show about tolerance. They ended up writing about zombies and cheerleaders so you can figure out creative ways to write about something or shed light on something without writing exactly what it is. And then you can assume that your audience is going to be smart enough for it. Okay. We're going to work on this. I'm excited. So here we go.